Interestingly, we haven't seen the indictments yet. There's been some time lag. I suppose it will take some time to go through all the forensic, evidence.
49.
Diddy is 49 years old.
Oh, man.
That is a 27.
You know how Steve Harvey jokes about his marriages being a mess? Turns out he may have been understating it, because the woman by his side on every red carpet, the one he calls his saving grace, his rock for over a decade, is now alleged to have played a far darker role than anyone imagined. According to persistent rumors, Marjorie Harvey wasn't just a guest at Diddy's infamous parties. She was deeply embedded in that world, with a past that raises unsettling questions. Her ex-husbands weren't ordinary men. They were convicted kingpins, figures so powerful they received life sentences, with one later granted a presidential pardon. So the question no one seems willing to ask is this. If Marjorie was allegedly knee-deep in that world, what exactly was she doing alongside Diddy for all those years? And more importantly, what did Steve Harvey know? Because if even half of these claims are true, America's favorite TV dad may have been sitting on the biggest scandal of his career, the kind that doesn't just shock, but forces you to question everything you thought you knew.
50's to be
Fifth. Y'all don't even, fifth is
play
is
around if you
different.
want to.
Fifth is different.
And he's on tour.
He's
He ain't even
Before anyone dismisses this as just rumors, it's important to understand why this story refuses to fade. These allegations didn't come from a random blog. They were amplified by 50 Cent, a figure known for strategically exposing controversies at moments when pressure is already building. He alleged that Marjorie Harvey wasn't merely a glamorous socialite appearing at high-profile events, but someone far more deeply connected to the inner workings of Diddy's world. The timing raised eyebrows. The claims surfaced as Diddy's legal troubles intensified, as Steve and Marjorie faced public cheating rumors, and as a major documentary loomed, hardly a coincidence. What complicates the narrative further is Marjorie's past, which critics argue looks less like distant history and more like a pattern. Her former husbands, Jim Townsend and Donald Woods, were convicted drug kingpins with deep criminal ties, fueling long-standing speculation that law enforcement once had reason to scrutinize her as well. Yet she ultimately re-emerged beside Steve Harvey, a man whose public image is built on family values, morality, and advice about respect and integrity. That contrast has sparked uncomfortable questions. If Marjorie was allegedly present or influential, at gatherings now linked through lawsuits to coercion and enforced silence, what role was she truly playing, and how much did Steve Harvey know while building his brand as America's favorite moral authority?
So she called me, and she just went off on me.
And then there's Lori Harvey, Steve Harvey's stepdaughter, the rising model and it girl long linked to high-profile names from Future to Michael B. Jordan. This is the same Lori who, back in 2019, was allegedly spotted growing unusually close to Diddy in Italy and Mexico, photographed in matching outfits that fueled speculation they were more than just friends. Insiders have also claimed she was present during one of the most vulnerable moments of Diddy's life, following Kim Porter's tragic passing. And that raises uncomfortable questions. If Steve Harvey's wife was allegedly connected to Diddy's inner circle in ways only now coming into focus, how did he not object to his stepdaughter being publicly associated with the man at the center of it all? Unless, of course, he already knew? Unless the Harveys and the Combs were never simply social acquaintances, but part of a deeper, more calculated relationship where loyalty, silence, and leverage mattered more than appearances. This wouldn't be the first time Steve Harvey's personal life ended in public chaos. His second ex-wife, Mary Shackelford, once sued him for $60 million with explosive claims, a case later dismissed but not forgotten. So when Marjorie Harvey recently addressed cheating rumors with a religious-themed post about being lied on, was it really about a baseless affair? Or was it a preemptive move to control the narrative before someone else, perhaps someone like 50 Cent, decided to control it for her?
So you're not allowed, they don't want you to say nothing about what's really going on.
No, they want to be quiet.
And speaking of control, let's talk about the money. Because Marjorie didn't just shut down the cheating rumors, she was allegedly linked to a jaw-dropping demand. A $200 million divorce settlement. $200 million. And let's be honest, Steve Harvey's reported net worth doesn't easily support a number like that, which raises an obvious question. What exactly is Marjorie negotiating with? Because if history tells us anything, this isn't just about luxury, lifestyle, or appearances. It's about leverage. And if that leverage includes alleged knowledge of Diddy's parties, the substances, the women who've since spoken out, and the systems that supposedly kept everything quiet, then this stops looking like a messy divorce and starts looking like a high-stakes negotiation where reputations, careers, and possibly freedom are on the line. Zoom out and the timing gets even more interesting. Diddy's trial may be over, but the fallout is just beginning. The Netflix documentary is out, lawsuits are stacking up, and 50 Cent shows no signs of backing off. So when he hints that Marjorie was more than just a guest, that she allegedly played a deeper role, the real question becomes, is this about taking down Diddy alone, or exposing an entire network that may include some of the most powerful names in entertainment, including potentially Steve Harvey himself?
Her mother is 54 years old. Her mother is 5 years older.
And that brings us back to Lori, because if Marjorie was allegedly running point at Diddy's parties, acting as the bridge between the criminal underworld and hip-hop's elite, then the question becomes unavoidable. What role did Lori play? Was she just another young woman swept up in the glamour? Or was she there for a reason? This is the same Lori who was allegedly linked to Diddy's son, Justin, before later being spotted with Diddy himself. The same Lori insiders claim was by Diddy's side during some of his darkest moments. Coincidence or strategy? Because if the Harveys and the Combs were truly as close as rumors suggest, Lori's presence starts to look less like a random fling and more like a pattern. Especially when you remember that Steve Harvey didn't just marry Marjorie, he legally adopted Lori and made her his daughter. That changes everything. This isn't gossip about some distant celebrity. It's about the daughter of a man who built his entire brand on morality, respect, and preaching how people should live. The same man whose marriages have ended in explosive allegations and lawsuits. So how does Steve Harvey reconcile that image with his daughter being linked to a figure like Diddy? Unless, of course, he already understood the rules of the game. And that's where the silence gets loud, because Steve hasn't denied anything, hasn't expressed outrage, just brushed it off as noise. But history tells us when accusations hit too close to home, the powerful don't lash out, they go quiet, and Steve Harvey has been very, very quiet.
So they in that generation. And I asked them what is it, and they said, Dad, you clickbait.
Well,
He said, you clickbait. He said, you one of the most viral people in your age group out there. He said, Dad, every clip on Family Feud got you on it.
yeah.
You clickbait. If they can take your face and put it on anything, you become clickbait. He said, and that's what it is, you know.
But here's the part nobody's really asking out loud. What was Steve Harvey actually getting out of this marriage? Because let's be honest, he didn't need Marjorie for money, and he definitely didn't need her for fame, so why choose a woman with that kind of past, those kinds of connections, and that much baggage unless those connections were the real value? Unless Marjorie wasn't just a wife, but an asset. Someone with access, with secrets, with the ability to open doors Steve couldn't open on his own no matter how famous he became. And if that's true, then this story stops being about Marjorie's past and starts being about Steve's future, because Diddy may be locked up, but the fallout is far from over. Lawsuits are still stacking, the documentary is still trending, and 50 Cent clearly isn't finished talking. If Marjorie really was embedded in Diddy's world the way he's implying, running parties, bridging illicit circles and hip-hop elites, then Steve Harvey isn't married to a scandal, he's married to a liability that could threaten everything he's built. And while the internet is spiraling over cheating rumors and shady connections, one silence is impossible to ignore. Lori's. No posts, no denials, no carefully worded statements. Just disappearance. And in a world where everyone rushes to control the narrative, silence isn't classy. It's suspicious. Which brings us to that jaw-dropping $200 million demand, because that's not a divorce number, that's leverage. That kind of figure doesn't come from heartbreak. It comes from knowing something valuable, something dangerous. Steve Harvey's net worth doesn't comfortably cover that. So the real question becomes, what does Marjorie have, and who, or what is she protecting him from? History tells us Steve's marriages don't end quietly. Just ask Mary Shackelford, the ex-wife who came swinging with a $60 million lawsuit and explosive accusations. So when Marjorie starts naming numbers big enough to make CEOs sweat, it's worth asking whether this is about money at all, or about keeping certain truths buried.
That Steve Harvey was in a perfect position to help me get clemency. I wouldn't have to go through what I went through, but God.
Let's talk about Marjorie's clothing line, Lady Love Couture, because on the surface it looks like just another forgettable celebrity vanity project. glamorous, overpriced, and easy to ignore. But what if it was never meant to be about fashion at all? What if it was a shield, a way to manufacture legitimacy? Because Diddy's empire was never just about music. Bad Boy Records functioned like a fortress, a system designed to clean reputations, move money, and keep the right people silent. And when Marjorie launched a luxury brand right as Steve Harvey's career hit new heights and the rumors about her past conveniently faded, it raises a serious question. Was Lady Love Couture simply the Harvey brand version of reputation laundering, a polished identity meant to drown out whispers tied to two convicted kingpins? And if Steve knew, because realistically, how could he not? Then his silence suddenly makes sense, because this was never just about love, it was about control, the one thing Marjorie's exes lost when they went to prison. But here's where it gets darker. Diddy's trial wasn't just about one man, it exposed an entire machine, a network of associates who knew how to keep secrets, and if Marjorie was allegedly running point at those infamous parties, making sure everything flowed smoothly, then her absence from the indictment is glaring. So what happened? Did she cut a deal? Did she cooperate? Or is she still playing the long game, waiting for the right moment to cash in? Because those parties weren't just parties, they were boardrooms, and if Marjorie was part of the operations the way insiders suggest, then when we see her smiling beside Steve Harvey on red carpets, we have to ask a chilling question. Was she ever really just his wife, or was she always something far more strategic?
But I would feel like I failed as a father.
I think
if I'm sitting across from the table with a dude the same age as me that's dating my daughter.
Or was she his insurance policy all along? And then there's Lori, the stepdaughter, the model, the rising it girl, who was allegedly seen getting close to Diddy not once or twice but repeatedly in Italy, in Mexico, in those coordinated outfits that loudly suggested this was more than friendship. If you're Steve Harvey, and your wife is already rumored to be deeply connected to Diddy's world, how do you not question your stepdaughter being photographed with the very man at the center of it all? Unless you already knew, unless the Harveys and the Combs were never just social acquaintances, but part of a much bigger arrangement where loyalty, silence, and leverage were the real currency. Steve didn't just adopt Lori, he folded her into his image, his brand, so when she's linked to Diddy, it stops looking like a random scandal and starts feeling strategic, almost like a calculated handoff rather than a romance. And that leaves us with two ugly endings. Either Marjorie talks and Steve Harvey's carefully built empire collapses as he's recast not as America's favorite dad but as the man tied by marriage to one of hip-hop's darkest scandals, making Family Feud a joke, his books meaningless, and that $200 million demand feels small compared to what he stands to lose, or they ride it out, betting the public's attention span is shorter than a TikTok trend, smiling through the chaos, posting polished sermons about handling lies and waiting for the noise to fade. But storms don't vanish, they mutate, and if the Netflix documentary proved anything, it's that 50 Cent didn't just expose Diddy. He lobbed a grenade into the Harvey household, and the only real question left is who's still holding it when it finally explodes.
Anything, you would interpret it as hip-hop is fine with his behaviors. There's no one else being vocal. So you would look at it and just say, because that mind your business, or let me not say nothing about nothing, or those things, it would allow the entire culture to register as if they're for that.
And let's not forget, 50 isn't done. The lawsuits keep piling up, the Netflix documentary is still trending, and if Marjorie was really embedded in Diddy's world the way the rumors suggest, running parties, connecting the illicit trade to the hip-hop elite, then Steve Harvey isn't just married to a woman with a scandalous past, he's married to a ticking time bomb. And the clock is definitely running. So Steve, if you're listening, maybe it's time to break that silence, because the questions aren't going away, and neither are we. But here's the real question for everyone else. Was Marjorie just a socialite caught in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was she orchestrating a game we're only now beginning to understand? Drop your theories, because this story is far from over, and as always, stay curious, stay skeptical, and buckle up for what comes next.